So to start things off, I have the sixth pick in the draft, obviously, and I'm pretty happy with that this year. At first, I was a little annoyed. I would have rather had a late round pick because at the six, obviously, right off the rip, you're not going to be getting CMC, Saquon, Zeke, Kamara, the big four, kind of, and then you're two picks out from that. So even if Hensel fucks something up and does something stupid at the four, then it still has to go through Kenny for me to get one of those big four guys. But as this summer went on, too, I kind of got more comfortable with probably Derrick Henry. And even as we got more and more into August, I really was starting to eye Miles Sanders at the sixth pick there because really you just don't know with Kenny who's gonna go where. I mean, I could see Michael Thomas there. I could see Dalvin Cook there. I could see him taking Henry. I could see outside of those three. I mean, who knows? We don't know what he's up to this year. I would assume he's gonna go running back. I think it's a little early for Michael Thomas, especially with Henry being the reigning rushing champion on the board. But we'll see how that goes. So ultimately, I think at this point where I'm at right now, I'm going to be going Derrick Henry today if he's available. Top pick on my board. And I was, like I said, really into Miles Sanders. The Eagles O-line is obviously really good despite the two injuries that they had this summer, which do kind of play into how early I'd be willing to take him. But I think that their offense is still going to be good. Their offensive line is still going to be good. And the bad news was that pulled hamstring, which I read this was described as not that bad, but not that good. Not what you want to be hearing about a late August hamstring pull from your first round picks. So I'm not going to be going Miles Sanders at all. Obviously injuries are impossible to predict in football, but we don't need to be going after guys that are already going into the season injured. Henry never really been injured in his whole career, so I will take the safe pick there. Let's say he does not fall to me, I'm going to be going Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Basically under the same principle that I took Damien Williams last year. The Chiefs' offensive line is good. The Chiefs' offense is going to score who knows how many fucking touchdowns, 70 plus touchdowns easily. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be the beneficiary in those. Beep the cat in the background, sniffing the Patriots hat. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to get basically the goal line work. He's going to get the receptions. Patrick Mahomes specifically said that he wanted the Chiefs to draft Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Andy Reid compared him to Brian Westbrook. I mean, I really just think that you can't go wrong. Obviously, since he's a rookie, you might see some early work where he's splitting carries. I think by the end of the season, when it really matters, he's going to be the guy. And the Chiefs' offense is just going to be so good this year. Does it really matter? It's not going to be the committee like it was last year with Damian and Shady. And then even like the fucking like third random guys that they were bringing in. That was so frustrating to watch. Especially with Damien Williams getting snubbed of the Super Bowl MVP at the end of the year. But, the same principle applies. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the number one running back in the number one offense. So you really can't go wrong with him there. So hopefully Henry. I'll take Henry first as my 1A. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be my 1B. Other than those three, I really didn't consider anybody else at the 6th. Obviously, I was big, like, if Kamara falls to me, will I take him? And I was fully on board with that if he did. But now with the contract situation, the epidural shot in the back, I think that there's just a little too much up in the air. Obviously, Kamara could easily finish as the top 3. He could finish as the overall number 1 back. And nobody would be really surprised with that. I'm certainly not saying that that's not within his range of outcomes, but like I was saying, I'm going all certainty this year. Every single pick that I'm making is going to be a hitter. So I'm not going to take a dude in the first round that has any level of question, any level of uncertainty. So Kamara, if he falls to me, and Henry's not there, Clyde Edwards-Helaire's not there, maybe I'll consider him. But if I had to go Kamara over Sanders at this point, at that point I would probably still go Kamara. But Henry, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, that's my 1A, 1B. Kamara, if he fell to me, I'd take him there as sort of my third option. But we'll see how it goes. You never know with Hensel and Kenny ahead of you what's gonna be coming around the swing. And so as we move into the second round, it's a little harder to sort of speculate on the second round because ultimately you have no idea how things are going to play out over the swing. And especially with who we have going over there, we know we got Matt and Mike drafting from, I think, the 11-12 this year. You really don't know what's going to play out, who's going to fall to you coming in the second round. So the second round, I really kind of just come up with like a list of who I want in sort of in what order. So early in the season, like midsummer, early in the summer, midsummer, I was really big into just like, I'm going Sanders in the second round. And then as we got to July, August, his ADP really started climbing into the first round, and it became pretty clear that I'm not going to be able to get him in the second round. So that's when I started considering him as a first round pick too, especially with the Eagles running back coach saying they're going to give him the workhorse carries and everything. Basically everything you were seeing was that he's going to have a big year. And that was my boy last year. It broke my heart when I had to drop him, but obviously it was fun for my life trying to get into the playoffs. You had to do what you had to do, but I felt like it would have been a little redemption this year to get him. So obviously he's my number one second round option. I'd love to have him fall to me, but I'm really not counting that he will. And who I honestly think will is probably going to be Kenyon Drake or Austin Eckler is who I think I will end up drafting in the second round. I'm for sure going running back. There's only really one scenario that I would consider not going running back, and that's if let's say two wide receivers go off the board before me and just every pick is a running back, and you get to me and the best running backs are all gone. There's a certain tier that really drops off around, for me, it drops off around Eckler, Drake, Chubb, Mixon, even Carson a lot. I don't know if I would really take Carson in the second round. I think that's a little early. I think he's more of a late third round guy, but it's like this year with running backs being as tight as they are, you got to get your guy when you need him. So I would probably consider Carson in the second round, but if not, I'm going to go Godwin in the second round here. If all else fails, you really can't go wrong with Tom Brady's slot receiver. So Godwin is sort of my panic option in the second round if there's no running backs I like, but I'm pretty confident that Eckler's going to fall to me. I really want Eckler. I think he's my top target going into the second round. The Tyrod and Justin Herbert situation doesn't really scare me. Tyrod's not going to rush for 500 yards this year. I think that realistically Eckler's still good for 10 touches a game, and then he's going to get probably 5-6 receptions a game, and I think that's really all you need. I think he's got a very secure floor. He could easily go for 1,000 yards receiving like he did again. We know that's within his range of outcomes. If he puts down 600 on the ground, 800 through the air, I'll take 1,200 total yards with the half PPR. Added bonus, honestly. And then I think he's going to get some touchdowns. I think that the Chargers offense won't be that bad because they have a lot of weapons to stretch the field. So I'm not too worried about him. Drake, I'm just not sure on. He's never had the workhorse role for a full year. I think that he'll probably will end up getting hurt at some point this year. And not that that's like an off my board kind of red flag, but I think that like if you go Drake, you definitely have to go with Chase Edmonds as the backup. You're gonna have to reach on him a little bit, and I just feel like we've never seen Drake do it over a full year. I mean, the Cardinals offensive line played really well last year. It's not like Drake's advanced numbers last year when he was going off towards the end were that good. It's that the offensive line play was that good, and he just kind of benefited from that. So I'll take him if he falls to me. If Eckler's gone, if Sanders is gone, if there's no Jacobs, if there's no Mixon, if there's no, those tier 1 guys, I'll take Drake for sure. I'm not really complaining about having to do that, but he's not necessarily my number 1 guy. I think I would rather have Eckler at this point. So Obviously, Sanders is going to be my go-to guy. I'm looking for him to fall. I don't think he will. I think he'll probably go to Vince at the 8th. In fact, I'm probably going to try and convince Vince to take him 8th overall. If he's not already considering that, I mean, I don't know. I'm going to be talking to him later today. So I'm going to try and convince him because I don't want him going to Matt or Mike. I think that Sanders honestly could finish as a top 5 running back this year. And I would hate to see a top 5 running back fall to like those late swing guys. Because if you can come away with, it's kind of like I was talking about earlier, the late picks this year are so solid. If you can come away with Sanders and Josh Jacobs, Sanders and Mixon, Sanders and I mean any number of those running back guys, you're in the money already. Like boom, your first 2 picks, you're in the money. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with the swing. Anything can happen, especially the injury too. I mean, early season or late preseason hamstring injury is no big deal. I mean, his chance to re-injure that's really high, and if he re-injures it, he's out a month. I mean, a re-injured hamstring is really bad. So we'll see what happens. I'm willing to take that risk in my 2nd round pick, not in my 1st round pick. That's the bottom line for me. So 3rd round is where a lot of scenarios that I've come up with start playing out, because by the time we swing back around, it's pretty obvious to me this year you have to go running back in the first 2 rounds. It's the drop off after the first tier of running backs is insane. If you're unaware, it's going to be a tough season for you probably. But I mean, I'm going to be starting running back for sure. There's like I said, I have some panic scenarios where I take Godwin, but I really don't want to have to do that, because then you're kind of scrambling for your RB2 in the 3rd, 4th round. In the 3rd, 4th round, running backs this year are not hit us. They're not hit us. You're gambling any way you look at it. So 3rd round, best case scenario, I'm going to throw it out there, Mark Andrews. And I don't think that it's going to happen, because I think Andrews is going to take him at the swing. But I would love to have Mark Andrews. Ultimately, probably what lost me the season last year was dropping him in that week 1. It sucks, I had him in the draft. My eyes were on him, and then it just didn't work. It didn't work out, And everybody knows the stats at this point. 50%, less than 50% of snaps, and he put up those numbers he did this year. He's Lamar's favorite target. I think he'll probably finish as a tight end 1 this year. So I don't see why you would draft Kelsey in the 2nd round. I don't see why you would draft Kittle in the 2nd round. You could get Mark Andrews in the 3rd round. He's probably going to finish as a tight end 1 this year. So, and I mean, it seems like his floor at worst is top 3. I would say top 3. So my best case scenario in the 3rd round is I'm going him. I'd like to see Andrew maybe go another running back in a Lamar. I think Jordan could take him to, Jordan took Kittle early last year. I could see him going there. But I think if he doesn't get taken by Andrew, I think there's a good chance he'll fall to me, and I'd like that a lot. Now, if Andrews doesn't fall to me, then my next option, I'm really thinking about tripling down on running back right off the bat and going either Chris Carson if he falls to me in the 3rd round, or Jonathan Taylor. And I think that there's a lot of question marks. That's definitely going to be my biggest reach pick this year if I went Jonathan Taylor. But it seems like the general consensus to me is that everybody thinks that he will be the starter midway through the season. And I just look at it with the end in mind. I look at where we're at now. How am I going to be looking at this draft pick come playoff time? And if my RB3 takes over as the starter in the Colts offense with Phillip Rivers dumping the ball off to the running back 10 times a game, I'm fucking happy with that, dude. Jonathan Taylor is obviously the best running back in the backfield. It's just the fact that he's a rookie. Mac's going to get a lot of the between the 20s work. He's going to get a lot of the first down carries, but Jonathan Taylor's better than him at the end of the day. He's going to beat him out, and eventually Jonathan Taylor's going to be the guy. And if that's your RB3 midway through the season, if I come out of the first 2 rounds with Henry, Eckler, and both of them are just doing their thing all season, and then Jonathan Taylor starts turning the gas on in like week 6, 8, nothing's going to stop me from taking the chip. So I also like Carson there a lot too. I'm going to be honest, having Carlos Hyde in the background does worry me. I don't think Carson's going to be getting 25 carries like he was last year. But the talent's still there, and Seahawks are going to run the ball a shit ton, and they're going to feed whoever's the number one running back. So I feel like in the third round, you can't really go wrong with him. He seems like probably one of the safest running backs at that point. Definitely more safe than James Conner or, I mean, who else is going in the third round? Melvin Gordon, Le'Veon Bell. No thanks. So third round, that's how I'm feeling. Fourth round, so let's say third round, I go running back. That would leave me to be taking Darren Waller in the fourth round. Because this year I've been burned by tight end the last couple of years. This year I'm just securing my guy early. Like, as you can see, best case scenario draft is going to be Mandrews in the third. I'm just grabbing my guy early. Second best, sort of the fork, the 1A, 1B. The 1B is going to be Waller in the fourth round. And that's assuming I go running back in the third. So I'm going to be starting running back, tight end. Get all of the scarcity positions. When you look at the wins above replacement, it's so much running back. The wins above replacement is huge. Tight end is, and like I was saying with Mandrews, Waller, top 4 tight end is basically his floor with range of outcomes. I think the Raiders offense is going to be a lot better this year. Carr only threw like 21 touchdowns or something last year. He's going to throw more. I'm not saying he's going for 30 plus, but he's definitely going to throw more touchdowns this year. And the Raiders offense with their wide receivers and shit are just banged up. Tyrell Williams out for the season. They had that rookie kid that was on the COVID list for a while. You got Hunter Renfrow. He's not like a dominant number one type guy. I think Waller's the number one option in that offense, and I think that offense it did improve. Obviously, there was a big jump in year 2 as with Gruden as the coach, and I think year 3 you're going to see a bigger jump. I think the offensive line with the Raiders is really good, and they're improving. I think Carr's gonna put up some numbers this year. I think he's gonna put up some low-key numbers, and Waller's gonna be the big recipient. If you want to talk about regression, I think Waller's definitely due for more touchdowns. I think he underperformed on touchdowns a lot last year, so I'm very high on Waller. And Waller's a tough guy with ADP because I see people online saying, oh, Waller in the 6th round, Waller in the 7th round. And I'm like, I don't see how he goes there. Waller's clearly the 4th best tight end. And when you look at our 2019 draft, tight end started going off the board in like round 5. Evan Ingram, I took him in the 5th round last year. And that pick worked out. It worked out when it did. And then when it didn't, it didn't. But Zach Ertz goes usually by the 5th round, and he's not a guy I'm on this year at all. Like, why? I don't see why you would go Ertz when you could go Waller, who's the clear number 1 in his offense. And I think that the 4th round is where you got to get him. I think that I'm not willing to risk letting the swing around through the 5th round. I'm just not willing to risk it. And I think that there's players that I want in the 5th round that are for sure too early to take in the 4th round. So I think that Waller just fits in the sweet spot of the 4th round there. I feel pretty confident I'll be able to get him there. If Waller gets taken, let's say Mandrews goes to Andrew takes Mandrews and Waller gets taken later and I don't get him, then I'll probably be going Hayden Hurst later in the draft. I think that it's been out there that he's going to be on the field for basically 100%. He's going to be an every down guy in the Atlanta offense. Oh, look at this fucking cat. And we know that the Atlanta offense puts up numbers with the tight end. Look at what's his face last year? I can't think of his name. Gonzo in the past, Jacob Tamme in the past, Hooper was who I was thinking of last year. And the Atlanta offense has a lot of vacated targets with Hooper leaving, Sanu leaving. So Hayden Hurst, I think the talent's there. I think he just didn't fit into the Baltimore offense. And I think Mandrews just emerged as Lamar's favorite receiver, and he didn't ultimately. I don't think Hayden Hurst is that bad. So if I can't get Mandrews or Waller, I'm definitely going Hayden Hurst. I'm probably going to reach on him later. I think if I don't get those guys, then I'm going to be probably going Hurst in maybe the 8th rounds or so to make sure I can get him. Hopefully I can get him there. I mean, you never know. I think that by the time you get to that, once the top tier of tight ends is off the board, everybody's going to basically be waiting until like the 10th round or later to take their guys. So I'm just going to reach up and get him in the 8th round because that's my guy. So moving on, 5th round. I think I was texted a couple people about this, probably Jordan, Andrew. The way I'm looking at the draft this year is when we finish the 6th round, I want to have four running backs, ideally. So if I'm starting running back, tight end, I'm still taking another running back straight up. If I go running back, tight end. If I go with the Mandrews route in the third round, I'm going to be taking a wide receiver in the fourth. So the wide receivers this year, there's a lot of guys that I really like. Adam Thielen is, I think, in line for a big year. I could easily see him finishing as a top 3 wide receiver, honestly, because Stephon Diggs is gone. They're bringing in a rookie, Justin Jefferson, who's going to have basically no rapport with Kirk Cousins. Thielen has a great rapport with Kirk Cousins. He got hurt last year. I mean, he's older, yes, but he was hurt last year. I give him a pass for last year. I had him in my office league last year, and it sucked because he didn't do what you thought he was going to do, and I think I'll give him a pass. I'm willing to give a guy without a big injury history a pass on one injured year. And I think Thielen will probably end up going like early third round. But basically how I have my wide receivers ordered, Thielen would be my number 1 guy in the third, fourth round. Then probably DJ Moore I really like. But honestly, there's been a lot of good reports about Curtis Samuel. I don't really know how I feel about Teddy Bridgewater coming in with the noodle arm. But DJ Moore's got so much talent that I just don't think you can really pass up on him. And then from there, I basically have him ranked Thielen 1, DJ Moore 2, AJ Brown would be my number 3 target. I think I could get him in the 4th round potentially. He's basically the only guy in that Tennessee offense. Like he's a clear number 1 alpha type receiver. They don't have anyone else to contend with him. I would prefer not to have Henry and AJ Brown though, so that's something I'm going to be conscious of when I'm drafting. 4 would be Robert Woods out in LA. For those that are aware, with how bad the Rams offensive line is, they switched to a lot of 2 tight end sets in the second half of the year, which moved Kupp from the slot to the outside. And when Kupp moved from the slot to the outside, his numbers went down a lot because he's just not a dominant outside guy like Robert Woods is. And I think that Robert Woods is, just like I was talking about with Darren Waller, he's a candidate for some positive touchdown regression. I think that he had like 3 touchdowns last year or something. I think he's probably going to get more than that. I think Robert Woods is the kind of guy I would mock for 1,300 yards, and I think over 5 touchdowns this year, which is going to be a big year for him. After Robert Woods as the 5th receiver for me kind of is probably DJ Chark. I think that the Jags offense kind of sucks in general. Like I'm not really super big on getting a guy, but Minshew's going to be throwing the ball a lot since they're going to be playing from behind basically every game, and somebody's going to have to get those targets and receptions, and it's Chark. Clearly, he's the best guy on that offense now that Fournette's gone, and probably was before. But I saw a comparison I thought was very interesting with Jay Gruden coming over of AJ Green's first year, 3 years in the league with Jay Gruden as offensive coordinator, and how his numbers just went up every single year because Jay Gruden loves that dominant outside wide receiver, and that Chark's going to basically be that role speculatively, and I could buy into that. I think that the situation works well. It's like the Bucs wide receivers last year. If you're playing from behind every game, your quarterback's going to be throwing the ball a shit ton. You're going to be getting somebody's going to be getting those receptions. So I like Chark a lot this year. I think in the 4th round, that's a really good pick. Same with I think Thielen and Moore are going to be 3rd round guys, but obviously if they fell to me, I would take them. But then AJ Brown, Robert Woods, Chark, and then Calvin Ridley are all basically going to be going in the 4th round, which is really the sweet spot. And that's why I'm not into going wide receiver early, because I think that these guys are all going to be finishing in the top 15 of wide receivers. So why would you take, I hate to say it, but like, why would you take a Devontae Adams or a Michael Thomas in the first round, in the late first round, when you could get one of them top running backs, and then you can just get one of these guys as your wide receiver 1? It really, if you take a wide receiver in the first 2-3 rounds, I think you need to really look at your strategy this year. And then Calvin Ridley, like I was saying earlier about Hayden Hurst, there's a lot of vacated targets in the Falcons offense this year. I think that the 3rd year for him as a receiver, he's going to be making the jump to not a Julio level, obviously, but he's going to be making a jump. I think this is the year that he really breaks out. He's been kind of, I had him in his rookie year, and he was so shaky. He'd put up those 20-point weeks, and then he'd put up a 5-6 point week, and it was very frustrating in his rookie year. But his end of season box numbers were pretty good. So his second year, Cove had him, and he was a little more consistent, definitely, but he didn't really put up the big numbers. Like, we thought he would make a big jump from like 900 something yards to like over 1,000, and I don't think he did that. But I think this is the year he does that. There's a lot of vacated targets in the Falcons offense. They're still going to be, Matt Ryan's still going to be throwing a shit ton. I don't know if you really have to worry about Gurley vulturing, like if they get in the red, some red zone touchdowns. But Calvin Ridley's the guy in the red zone. Same with Hayden Hurst. Like, after Hooper leaving, I think that Hayden Hurst isn't going to come in and catch. It's not a reasonable expectation that he's going to come in and catch 10 touchdowns. So I think that Ridley has a lot of touchdown upside. He seems to be a big target in the red zone for Matt Ryan. I would love to have him as my wide receiver one. I think it's a big year for him. So if I go wide receiver in the fourth, it's going to be one of those guys. Basically, I have him ordered: Thielen Moore, AJ Brown, Bobby Trees, Shark, Ridley, in that order, whoever's best available. That's if I go Mandrews in the third. If I go, obviously, Waller in the fourth, and then we roll around to the fifth round. That's been a tough spot to figure out for me, honestly, because, you start playing out scenarios of if you go this guy, in rounds 3 through 4, who are you going to take? And I think that I really locked myself in prior to Labor Day weekend to DeAndre Swift here. I thought that all the reports I was seeing was that, he's going to be the guy there. Kerryon Johnson, you might as well just assume, is going to get hurt at some point early in the season, and DeAndre Swift's going to take over there. They throw a lot to running backs in that offense. Look at Theo Riddick in 2018. That was under Patricia too. Fuck him. So I was big on DeAndre Swift, and then the injury news, and then they signed AP, so off my board now. Like, good luck if you already drafted him. But at this point, 5th round, might as well go Kareem Hunt. I think that, people with Stefanski coming over, he's going to be basically, look at Dalvin Cook with Stefanski run the offense in Minnesota. They throw to the receiver a lot. They run the ball a lot. And I think you're going to have Chubb run in between the tackles a lot. Chubb is a great player, but Kareem Hunt's going to get fucking 5 receptions a game. If Kareem Hunt gets close to 10 rushes a game and gets 5 receptions a game, he's going to be a stud, and that's my RB4. It's going to be over. It's going to be over if I get him as my RB4, especially, and I hate to do the if, but like if anything ever happened to Chubb, that's a league winner right there. So, like I was saying, I want 4 running backs coming out of the 6th rounds. Hopefully it's going to be those 4. It's going to be, best case scenario, let's say Henry, Eckler, Jonathan Taylor, Kareem Hunt. And then I think I got my 2 guys, Kareem Hunt, Jonathan Taylor, who by the end of the season, one of them will emerge as basically an RB1 at best case scenario. And I think at worst, Hunt's a good PPR play. He's a good flex play. He's like an RB3. And I'm going to ride Henry. I'm going to ride Eckler. I'm going to ride Eckler, Drake, Sanders, whoever I can get. Same with CEH. I feel good about him. So those are going to be my 4 running backs, hopefully. And pretty much all of my scenarios align to me taking Hunt in the 5th round. So I'm hoping no one snipes me. If someone does, I'd love to have a guy like Terry McLaurin there. I was big on David Montgomery in this range too. I thought that I might have to take him in the 4th. A guy like Hetzel could probably take him somewhere around that pick. Or it's, there's going to be at least 1 or 2 guys that go like 2 running back or 2 wide receivers in the first 3 rounds, and they're going to be looking at the running backs in the 4th, 5th round, and they're going to be like, oh fuck, there's nobody good here. And then that's a guy that will take David Montgomery in the 4th round. So I thought about maybe I have to take him in the 4th round, but I was going to probably just I was probably going to let it ride and see if he fell to the 5th round. But now with the strained groin, I'm not messing with that at all. And they didn't bring anybody in Unless I'm missing someone, I'm blanking someone at the moment. But they didn't really bring anybody in, which makes me think that they think he's healthy. But I'm not messing with a strained groin late preseason. Definitely not. Same thing with the ham. It's like a hamstring. A pulled muscle late preseason is not what I want. So, yeah, Kareem Hunt in the fifth, and then you're going to be looking at my team and you're going to be like, oh, he only has fucking running backs and a tight end. What an idiot. He didn't draft any wide receivers. And if that's how you feel with your strategy, then I'm going to say you're blissfully unaware of how deep wide receiver is this year. And I think that you're also probably blissfully unaware of just how little the drop-off is between, let's say, the wide receiver 10 and the wide receiver 30 end of the season. The drop-off is so little that, like, why would you reach on a guy like Kenny Golladay when you could basically be getting... You could get Hollywood Brown in the 6th round, who's going to be going off this year. The screws out of his foot. He played all of last year with a screw in his foot. He had a year to develop rapport with Lamar. They said he put on weight in the off season. I think he's the wide receiver 1 this year. So 6th round, I'd love to have Hollywood. I'd love to have Tyler Boyd if Hollywood's not there. You look at the Joe Burrow slot percentage targets. I think he threw 30-something touchdowns to the slot receiver at LSU. Boyd plays the slot. Boyd's like one of the top slot receivers statistically over the last 2 years. And I think that Bengals offense is going to be running a lot of plays. They're going to be playing from behind. They're going to be throwing. They're going to be running a lot of plays. And I think that Boyd is going to eat this year. I'd love to have him is the 6th or 7th round pick, honestly. And then another guy that is going in that range, I think, is Edelman, which surprises me. I could see Edelman going way earlier than that. But he's safe. Edelman has such a high floor. You know he's going to be getting... You know he's good for basically 6 receptions at least every game. He's going to eat. Cam loves those like little over the field routes. That's what Cam's good at. And Edelman's going to eat this year. I'd love to have him. So basically 6th, 7th round, I'm targeting those guys for my wide receivers. If I come away and Hollywood Brown's my wide receiver 1, I'm not mad at all at that. Especially if I'm stacking him with like, if I get Hollywood, Boyd, and Edelman, 2 out of 3, that's nice, dude. That's nice. Especially going 4 running backs deep and I get Andrews or Waller, I'd be hyped with that. So next, that's sort of my top tier of wide receivers in the 6-7 range. In the 7-8-9 range, it's tough to predict who's going to go where in this range, but I'm kind of just like, you know, this range of guys at this draft pick, like who's the best available, and I got it ranked. Obviously, I go Hollywood, Boyd, then Edelman. In the 7-8-9, I'm looking at Brandon Cooks, honestly. I think is a high upside play. He could flop this year, but, you know, by the time you get to the 7th round, you're not taking a pick that you're afraid of flopping in the 7th round. You want a high upside player. I think Brandon Cooks is probably the highest upside player in that round because with Nuke gone, somebody's going to have to get those throws. It's not going to be Will Fuller. The Texans, I don't think, are going to be as good this year. Sorry, the garbage truck is going by. It was squeaking. I don't think the Texans are going to be as good this year because their offense doesn't make sense. They don't have Nuke anymore as a dominant outside guy that Deshaun Watson likes and needs. David Johnson can't run between the tackles, and that's all Bill O'Brien does. And Duke Johnson doesn't run between the tackles either. So I don't think they're going to have a strong run game at all. And they're going to probably be down a lot and throwing the ball a lot. I would throw Brandon Cooks out there week 1 against Kansas City if I picked him on fit. Throw him as my wide receiver 2 or a flex guy. So I wouldn't mind having him. And then if he misses, whatever, it's a 7th round pick. He missed on that. Deontay Johnson I like a lot. I'm not worried about the Big Ben injury at all, honestly. From the analysis that I've looked at, it's basically just like you miss a year and come back and you're good. He's not really at risk of re-injuring that. It's just that he's old. But we've seen him support 2 wide receivers before with Antonio Brown, Juju, fucking any guy, Emmanuel Sanders, Mike Wallace, all them guys back in the day. So we've seen Big Ben do it. He can probably still throw for 4,000 to 5,000 yards. And if Steelers' offense is good, I would not mind having Deontay Johnson, especially because the reports this summer on Juju aren't that great, that he hasn't been that impressive. And Deontay Johnson's going into his 2nd year. Obviously, he didn't have that rapport with Big Ben that year. That's a little concerning. But if you're talking about him as an 8th round pick, it's not really concerning to me as an 8th round pick. Because, again, if your 8th round pick doesn't hit, it's not the end of the world. Another guy I really like is CeeDee Lamb a lot. He was a guy I was very in on early in the season in that Cowboys offense. They're going to throw a shit ton. Mike McCarthy throws at like a 70% rate, and they still have Kellen Moore as their offensive coordinator. I like that a lot. And Dak's playing for that contract this year. Dak is probably going to be the I would say best overall quarterback to take this year, given where he's going to go in the draft. I'm not saying he's going to finish as the quarterback 1, but he's basically guaranteed to finish as at least the quarterback 3, and you're probably going to be able to get him in the 5th, 6th round, which is way better than Lamar or Mahomes in the 2nd round or 3rd round. So I really like Dak. I just can't fit him into my draft strategy, honestly, because I'm like, in this round I need a running back, in this round I need a running back, and then I need a wide receiver. So I'm like, I'm always a QB late kind of guy. So I really like CeeDee Lamb here. He's running in the slot, which was that role that what's his name, Randall Cobb was in last year. Randall Cobb had like a low-key 800 yards from the slot this year. CeeDee Lamb's way better than him. I don't really care that he's the wide receiver 3 in the offense, because I don't think Gallup is that good. And Cooper doesn't show up in big games, so like the receptions are still going to be there if Dak throws 30 completions in a game. It's not like Gallup and Cooper are going to get fucking 25 of them, and there's only 5 left over, So I like Lamb. He's running from the slot in the preseason. He was a big guy. Early in the summer, I was like, watch him in the preseason. If he's running reps from the slot, you got to get him. And he's in that range where I'm like, I don't know if I'll be able to get him, because I could see somebody reaching on him in the 7th round, and I don't know if he's a guy I'm willing to go in the 2nd round, or in the 7th round, to get. But I like him a lot, definitely. And then those late, like 9th round, I'm really looking at like Deshaun Jackson. Kind of self-explanatory. Everybody on the Eagles is hurt, and he's not. So somebody's going to have to get the receptions. He looked good before the hernia last year with Carson Wentz. So I would like him. I think he's an early first month of the season he's going to be, and I don't think he's like a full season kind of guy. I think he's a first month of the season he's going to get you some points. I'm definitely throwing him in my lineup if I have him. Weeks 1, 2, 3. Preston Williams is a guy that I'm really big on this year. I think that I would pass on Deshaun Jackson to secure Preston Williams if I had to, because he makes me think of Cooper Kupp last year. He's like coming off a midseason ACL. Everybody's kind of off him because of that, but like dudes bounce back when they're young from ACL tears. It's not the same as it once was, where you're like, oh, ACL tear takes a full year to recover. Like, they're saying he's already looking good in camp. They're saying Devontae Parker's not looking that good in camp. I don't think Devontae Parker's that good. I think look at it, it's his 5th year. That it took 5 years for him to break out like that. And I think he was just kind of the recipient of the situation where they're playing from behind every game. They have to throw. Somebody's going to have to get the catches. So I really like Preston Williams this year. I think that he potentially is like I'm not going to say he's a league winner, but like he's like a depth guy. Like if you get him in the 9th round, he's a dude that you could potentially be starting throughout the season, which in that range is, you can't ask for more than that in the 9th round. So rest of it for running backs, I mean, it's kind of 2 late running backs are going to be two late target running backs are going to be Zach Moss, Antonio Gibson, but I have no idea where Antonio Gibson's going to go, and I'm not willing to reach on the running back in the Washington offense. Even though he's a PPR guy, he's going to be getting a lot of receptions. I just don't know where to take him. Like, I could see him going as early as, say, the 7th. I could see him going as early as like the 7th round, and I'm not going to take him that early. And I don't see him falling to like the 10th round. But if he does, I'll take him there. I really like Zach Moss too. I had Singletary last year, so obviously I was a big Singletary fan last year. But the numbers when you look at him aren't that good, and he doesn't get the red zone touches. He doesn't get a lot of passing game work, and that's what Zach Moss is going to get. So I'll take the Bills goal line back for sure, especially if they put him in the Frank Gore role. He's definitely better than Frank Gore. So if they put him in a similar role where he's getting like 12 touches a game, I think he does a lot more with the 12 touches, and he's going to get receiving work, which is big. So I would like to get him in the 10th round if he fell. Lastly, 11th, 12th, I definitely want Michael Pittman. I think he's a late wide receiver big wide receiver target for me. T.Y. Hilton already got hurt. He like already pulled a hamstring in the preseason. So Pittman was getting a lot of first team reps because of that. And he reminds me honestly of like a Vincent Jackson for Phillip Rivers. Like he's a big body wide receiver. He's going to be a red zone target, I think. Jack Doyle's not good. They're like, oh, the Colts are going to be targeting the tight end a lot this year. But Jack Doyle's not good. Like he doesn't do anything with the ball in his hands. He's like a catch the ball and fall kind of guy. So I'm like, I think Pittman got a lot of first team work in the preseason. I like that a lot. And I'm liking him a lot in like the 11th round. I think that's a pretty reasonable expectation to get him there. And I like him a lot there. So I think that he's a guy that could potentially, if we think that T.Y. is going to get hurt again this season, which he might, I think he could just emerge as a wide receiver 2 in that offense. And I think Phillip Rivers, we saw it with Mike Williams 2 years ago. Phillip Rivers can support 2 wide receivers in fantasy, especially with the Colts offensive line is so good that I'm really not worried about there being too many weapons on that offense. I think the offensive line's good. Somebody's going to eat, and I'm willing to bet that Michael Pittman will be that guy. So 12th, if we get to the 12th pick for me, I'm really looking at just like who's a deep wide receiver target for me or who's a good running back cuff. If there's a good running back cuff that falls to that point. If I get like a Chase Edmonds around that range, I think he goes earlier. I think Chase Edmonds, because he's a good cuff, goes like 10th round. I'm not going to reach on him that early, but like the Alexander Madisons, I don't know if I had Sanders, I would consider taking Boston Scott there, but I'm not really going to take Boston Scott on his own. Same with like Tony Pollard. Like people are like, oh, he's a must-own cuff, but like if Zeke gets hurt, but Zeke doesn't really get hurt, so I'm not super keen to have him in on my team. I think he's like a dude that you drop like 1 week into the season, so I'd rather like have a guy that I could at least hold. And then the big question, round 13, what quarterback will I be taking this year? And really, for me, it comes down to 2 guys that I really liked. I really liked Gardner Minshew prior to Fournette leaving. I thought that just the situation was right for him. He has the rushing upside. He's got a really accurate deep ball. But I just feel like with Fournette gone, like their offense is going to I think the Jags offense just isn't good enough this year. I can't, there's better options. I can't get myself involved with the Jags quarterback. So ultimately for me, if he's there, I'm going Tom Brady, Tampa Bay, TB12. I think that he's easy 30 touchdown kind of guy. He obviously doesn't have the rushing upside, but I think he's an easy 30 plus touchdowns this year. I think 4,000 yards easy. And I think he's just a guy that you just plug in there every week and you don't really worry about it. He's probably, he has the upside to throw for 3-4 touchdowns and 300 plus yards and get you those like 25-point weeks. And I think that his floor is reasonably going to be like a couple touchdowns every week, 200 something yards. I think he's a guy that you just plug in there, forget about, which is nice. If Brady's not there, which I don't know if he will make it to the 3rd round, I could see someone taking him earlier than that. I'm going Joe Burrow, Cincinnati Bengals. So I'm pretty confident Burrow will be there. And like I was saying, the Bengals offense has so many weapons. AJ Green, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon. Their offensive line, not great, but they're going to be playing from behind. Basically every game they're going to be running a lot of plays, and that's what we're looking for. I just want the volume. I think he's going to be a volume guy. I think he's got the legs. He's going to have the rushing upside a little bit. And I think that's all you need, that little bit of rushing upside. If he rushes like 3-4 touchdowns, if he can get a couple hundred yards on the ground, and I think they're going to be running a lot of plays. He's going to be throwing a lot. Burrow, I would love to have him on my team this year. He's got a pretty okay start to the season schedule. He's got a Thursday night game week 2. I'm not that big on, but I think they get the Chargers week 1. So I thought him out there against the Chargers at home. And then obviously I'm going defense kicker, 14th, 15th round to close it out. I'm not going to be reaching on a kicker or defense. They're going to be the last 2 picks for me. So in order, I really like the Bills. I don't think they'll fall to me in the 14th round. I like the Colts this year. They have a pretty good start of the season schedule. I'm probably going to be streaming for the most part. So the Colts have a really good start of the season schedule. The Cowboys have a really good start of the season schedule. I like them a lot, adding Everson Griffin. And then the Titans too, but I don't know if I'll be able to get them because they just signed Jadeveon Clowney. So somebody might reach on them in like the 12th or 13th. I could see that. But basically in order, Bills, Colts, Cowboys, Titans, that's who I'm going. Kicker, just going to take a look, see who's the best available, who I think will be on the best offense, and go with that. And so yeah, to close it out, that's pretty much my strategy for the year. I think that's a 10 wins, a pretty reasonable expectation for me this year. I'd like to get a first round bye in the playoffs. That's a big goal. So let's talk season goals. I obviously I'm going to beat Hensel twice this year. That's a pretty reasonable expectation for me this year. Matt, you never know with him. He's got a good draft pick. So I would definitely love to. I'd love to beat him twice. I think it's doable. If I'm going to get to 10 wins, I'm going to have to go 3-1 in the division. I think I'll win the division pretty easily this year, just based on the strategy that I outlined. And 10 wins for sure. I've been going fucking 7-6 every year. Like Jeff Fisher said, I'm not going fucking 7-6 again this year. It's not happening. I put the work in this preseason. The draft's going to go well today. And we're going to make it happen. 10 wins, championship. I'd like to get the first round bye if I'm the 1 seed or the 2 seed. Win my 2-3 playoff games and boom, take it home. And then who knows? I don't know. I haven't decided what I'm going to buy when I win the championship yet. But, that's for a video to come. So that's my strategy. It's now 10 o'clock. Drafts in 4 hours. So gonna start getting ready, getting my mind right, and I'm gonna do a post-draft video. Hopefully I can get Jordan or Mike in on that. We can do one together, and we're gonna go over and rank everybody's drafts, what we think, who had the best draft, who had the worst draft, who you think are the top teams. We'll make some projections for the season, and obviously I'm gonna follow up, see how I did in the live draft versus what I just outlined here, because that's what I'm looking for. So I think that I will stick to my notes and we'll see what happens. So I'm fucking hype. It's football season. This shit's happening amidst all of everything going on in 2020. We need football. We really do. So let's fucking get it. It's draft day. Let's get hype. Peace. What's going on, guys? We're here this morning bringing the first official vlog of the 2020 season, in which I will be documenting my journey to the championship and beyond. It's currently 9 a.m., the morning of the draft. This is Labor Day, and I'm going to do a quick rundown of my draft notes that have been evolving since pretty much Memorial Day weekend. With sports being canceled entirely in the early to midsummer, I really shifted my focus to football super early this year, which was mostly out of boredom, but it's given me a great background to watch the summer news, even though they were limited to no camps, and watch ADPs rise and fall to where we are today. So my strategy has gone from pretty much identifying my breakout players to then honing in what round I see those guys should be going, and then further honing in where I think I need to take the players that I want most in our draft, given how competitive it is. Thinking about 2017 Kareem Hunt, Mike